So let's quickly check the PBs. Charles with 106.9. Exotica had a 107.0, I believe. Yeah, 107.0. Richie with a 0.7. And Neil also with a 0.7. So PB-wise, DG and Tescad look a bit better, but of course that doesn't have to mean anything. So Charles very close there on the inside, manages to survive and actually works out for him because he is in the lead. Now we have Neil dropping down a bit together with an Exotica onto the wood section. Can they all survive? Yes, they do. An Exotica with a slightly slower exit than the rest. Still all very close to each other. Richie drops down a bit. This is not what we expected, and he can barely even make the jump. Just trying to catch up, but then makes an additional mistake. And Richie will be a second behind. Meaning Neil has to salvage the situation here. Charles looking very strong, round 1 in first. Exotica just trying to keep that third place and maybe even overtake for second if there is a situation with Neil. Neil, however, doing a great job. That is an amazing ice slide, but Charles gets it even better. Looks like Charles will secure first, Neil in second, Exotica gets third. And Richie cannot even make the jump. Poor start from Richie there, and the times are not the best so far. Maybe the players are still warming up a bit. Richie there with a terrible respawn. I don't think he can even make it. This map is Ascension. So good start there for Damascus. Getting a victory in round 1. And we gotta remember, this is Neil and Richie's first pick. So it would be huge if Damascus can win it. And that's another mistake there by Richie. He's really having a poor start in the match. Maybe his warm-up wasn't good, or he's mentally not there yet. So once again, it is up to Neil to make sure they don't get aced. Charles and Exotica a bit behind, but they're in the round, and that's what matters. They haven't made a mistake. They're just lurking behind, waiting for a mistake from Neil. Trying to see if they can maybe get an ace and go 5-1 up. Because Richie is really far behind. He will not do anything in this round. Neil, however, doing a great job just defending. Charles is trying to catch up, trying to go for another victory here. Who can get the better exit? Looks like it's Charles, but he cannot catch up enough. If Neil can just make the jump, which he will, but Charles clips a bit, has to respawn, and even Richie overtakes. So all of a sudden, that's a victory for DG and Tescad. Victory. Charles maybe risking a bit too much. And had to respawn, costing his team a draw. That's how quickly I can flip around. If you just try to risk too much, try to go for a victory, all of a sudden, you get a loss. So Richie, they're really getting saved. And he's not having the best start in round 3 either. Already a bit behind Charles and Neil. Slows down a lot, but then Charles gets completely wiped out. And after a strong start by Damascus, looks like they could be in trouble this round, but then Neil with a mistake of his own, and so far, so many mistakes on Ascension. Just like what we saw yesterday. Exotica there barely avoids the clip on the right. Still fighting with Richie for their first place. Richie finally on a good round and really showing what he can do on Ascension. Manages to keep the gear and pulls away from Exotica even more. Charles is too far behind to make anything happen. He's just waiting for mistakes. And Exotica is being attacked here by Neil. He needs to make sure he overtakes back for second. Otherwise this is gonna be an ace, and DG and Tescad will get the first ace of the match. And Exotica with a very poor ice section. He's just safing too much. Gets overtaken by Neil, and those are two great back-to-back rounds by Neil and Richie. Coming back strong, and in both situations, one blue player overtaking a red player in the very end to secure first a victory and then an ace. And now we already seen Exotica with a crash, Charles with a poor start of his own, and it's looking amazing right now for Neil and Richie. They are in the lead, they're looking at another ace. They just gotta make sure they keep this distance all the way to the finish. A lot can still happen, of course. All of them getting the drift. No issues there. No clips onto the hole. All of them are making it through the most difficult section, but seems like Charles has way more exit speed. And all of a sudden, he's looking poised to take first. Has more speed than Neil. Richie drops down to third. But I think Neil and Richie would be happy with a draw here. They just gotta make sure they don't get aced. Doing a great job. Charles is in first, so it's looking like a draw. All three of them make it. And this will be a draw. 7-4 for DG and Tascad. And they are within striking distance of clinching map number 1. Can they secure the win with an ace here? Looking pretty good here. After a bit of a rough start. That's already a mistake there by Charles. Putting a lot of pressure on Exotica. He has to make sure they don't get aced, otherwise it's already over. And I have to say Neil has been really strong on Ascension. 0 mistakes pretty much. Always there when he has to deny the ace from the red team or when he has to secure the ace for his team. When Exotica clips, Neil all alone in first and Richie goes up to second. So it's looking perfect there for DG and Tasca as Charles clips the hole. And Exotica just seems to be way too far behind to make a difference in this round. So it's really up to Neil and Richie. Can they just avoid mistakes in this ice section? No slide outs. Can they get a good exit? Richie very safe, but he knows he has a massive gap of 0.7. Both of them making the jump, and that will be map number 1 going to Neil and Richie. Neil closing it out with a 106, which is the best time we've seen so far. So great performance by Neil. Very solid in every single round. And made sure he was there when Richie was having a few issues in the start. Proper teamwork there. So in the end, very convincing. 10-4, 2 aces, and a victory for either side. In addition to 1 draw. So let's see what's gonna happen on Ellipse. I think we can expect even less mistakes on Ellipse. This is the most close racing map out of all of them. Here it's mostly about making sure you don't constantly lose time. That you don't lose time in every single turn. Just gotta keep it together. Look at the stats. 0% crashes, 40% first. Great map by Neil. With an Exotica, I believe, already making a mistake, and Charles as well. And they're really making it easy here for Neil and Richie, who look very strong. Great start by both, and they already have a 0.5 lead. Now on Ellipse, it's rather easy to keep that sort of lead because there's no section where you can drop that much, as long as you know you can save it. And with that clip, an Exotica is gonna be over 1 second behind. So Neil and Richie can make sure they save every single turn. They just gotta make sure they don't mess up the bug slide. Richie there having some troubles, but he's so far ahead it doesn't really matter. I mean, look at these bug slides, completely scuffed. But the other two are so far behind that it doesn't matter. And even though Neil and Richie have done their best to throw this away, 2 additional mistakes from Damascus mean that Neil and Richie will get the first ace of Ellipse. Yeah, the bot is time traveling. The bot thinks this is Europe. So ace for Neil and Richie. Very strong start to Ellipse as well. And Charles and Exotica look a bit rattled. They gotta pull themselves together very quickly, otherwise this is gonna be the end for them. However, this time it's Richie who is a bit behind, and we have 2 1v1s very early on. Charles versus Neil and then Exotica versus Richie. However, Richie mounting a strong comeback here, making sure he pulls closer, but then completely messes up. The exit there will lose further time towards Neil and Charles. And Exotica is even further behind. He just doesn't seem to be able to follow pace-wise on either of the two maps. So a lot of it is on his teammate Charles, who just cannot catch up to Neil right now. So it's looking like another victory here for DG and Tascad, with Exotica making an additional mistake. But can Richie maybe catch up to Charles here? Can they get another ace? Neil looking solid in first. Charles trying his best but cannot catch up. Richie very close to both walls. But then there's Neil with a 0.1. And he's been really, really impressive so far. 5-1 for Neil and Richie on ellipse. And the way this is going, this could be an absolute hammering. Great start by Richie, already in first. And I believe that's Exotica a bit behind, with Charles making a mistake. So Exotica playing a 1v2. Can he make sure this doesn't go to 8-1? It's gonna be very tough here, because we know that Neil and Richie are both very quick. So he will have to risk quite a lot. He wants to get at least second here. And I mean, even second isn't that amazing, because it means they lose a further point. Where he drops the gear and the situation is just running away from him. He cannot keep up with the blue duo, even though he's obviously trying his best. But Neil and Richie are just so fast. However, in round 1, we did see some mistakes in this section. That's exactly what happens. Neil touches, allowing Exotica to come back. That is a good box slide by Exotica. Goes up to second, so at least he won't get aced. And look at this, even Charles is back. Can they maybe salvage a draw here? Another mistake by Charles, very unfortunate. But then Exotica saving too much, allowing Neil to go up to second. And Neil will secure second. Richie with an online PB. Almost drives a 110. Amazing round by Richie. And Neil, despite the mistake, makes sure he gets second. Great job by Neil. And that is 8-1 on ellipse. We gotta remember, this is Damascus Gaming's first pick. And they are getting absolutely demolished. That's already a mistake there from Exotica, and this could already be over. Richie just needs to keep first, and Neil needs to make sure he doesn't make a mistake. We could already be done with ellipse. That's a crash from Charles in the fragile section, so that's gonna cost him a lot. And could this be another ace? We are looking at an 11-1 scoreline here. That is insane. On Damascus Gaming's first pick. Richie is looking incredible on ellipse. Just nobody can do anything to him except himself, of course. He clips, but it doesn't matter. Just means Neil will catch up a bit, but Charles is still 0.7 behind. And Richie with a mistake just as I praised him. Luckily for him, Exotica is still far behind. And this still works for DG and Tascad. Somehow this is still fine for them, despite all of the mess that has happened. And yes, there will be enough. That will be 10-2. And seems like every time Neil and Richie are fully safe and can take it easy on ellipse, they somehow manage to mess it up, but not enough to throw it all away. So that is 2-0 for Neil and Richie already. Very, very quick work. So it's 9 spots for Europe, 4 for the Americas, and 3 from APAC. I think the 4 American spots will be taken by the 4 teams we see today. I think the Americans have a very clear situation. Europe is going to be interesting, and 3 from APAC. We'll have to wait and see who can get third. Right now, Russian Mafia looks pretty good for that 3rd spot, but maybe someone can take it away from them. So map 3 is gonna be Sunburn, and the red team definitely gotta step it up if they want to stay in the match. Otherwise, they will go down to the loser bracket. So let's see round number 1. Again, Neil and Richie in top 2. Looking great. And Exotica has crashed, has no speed whatsoever. He's gonna be very grateful. There's a reactor, but he's gonna be too far behind to do anything unless someone ahead of him makes a mistake. But unfortunately for him, that's gonna be his teammate Charles. And once again, Neil and Richie have a slam dunk. Will they avoid mistakes? Richie so far ahead. Which strategy will they go for here? Richie going for the 360, Neil going for the normal turnaround. Both of them make it work. Let's see if Richie can make the jump, or will he decide to go safe? He definitely can afford to do so. Doesn't. Goes for the jump, makes it. His teammate Neil makes it as well, and that's gonna be an early ace once again for DG and Tascad. Starting off the same way as on Ellipse. Can Charles and Exotica actually do anything in this match? So far, they've been really disappointing. I have to say, I expected more from them, but they're just getting stomped. I mean, now is a good time as any to wake up, because Neil has made his first mistake of the match. The first big one. So it's up to Richie here to hold strong and make sure they don't get aced back straight away. Charles and Exotica still within striking distance here. Charles then makes a mistake. Richie with an interesting line goes over the gap, doesn't get punished. Exotica has to slow down a lot to under like 140 speed, and that's gonna be very costly, leaving Richie with a huge margin to work with. So there's no chance he can catch up here, just based on pace. Richie once again staying loyal to the 360 strat, and Exotica with the normal turnaround, and let's go on board with Richie as Neil is respawning multiple times. Now he knows he has the gap, decides not to go safe, and Exotica goes safe, very smart. But it doesn't really matter in this situation because Neil is 28 seconds behind. So I guess if you're gonna make a mistake, let it be a massive one, so that you get it out of your system and you're back on track the next round. So at least it's a draw. Maybe this will be the start of a very unlikely comeback. Let's see if Neil can bounce back straight away, or if he's gonna be a bit rattled. Whoa, he has already made an early mistake. Not as big as the previous round. His teammate as well, a little bit behind. So this is a situation that the red team hasn't found themselves in yet. And that's another mistake by Neil, who we know is a keyboard player, so all of these watery turns are a bit more difficult for him compared to the other players. Richie then with a completely different line, but manages to get the most exit speed. Great job there by Richie, and Exotica drops down further because I have no clue what he's doing there. Leaving Charles and Richie all alone in first. Richie with the 360 makes it work, but Charles even better. And we have a real fight here for first. Let's see who's gonna get it. They definitely have to go for the jump. Can they both make through the no-break section? Yes, they do. Both. No! Charles fails the jump. He can't go safe if he wants to. He decides not to. And Exotica will not make it. Where is Neil? And Neil makes it to secure the victory for DG and Tascad. And Exotica, I think, had the gap to go safe, but decided not to. Yeah, both matches looking like a 3-0. I did expect that to happen in the other match, but this one, I thought Damascus would put up more of a fight, honestly. It's looking like a complete stomp, and even when they're presented with a chance, they just cannot take advantage of it, like in the previous round. Because Neil does not look anywhere near as good on Sunburn as he does on the other maps. So there's definitely an opening here, but they're just not taking advantage of it. Richie, as usual, looking solid. No mistakes so far. And Exotica, as usual, very slow exit, allowing Neil to overtake him. And this could be A3 if it stays like this. All of them dropping the gear, nobody going the inside line. Obviously not worth it here. Let's see the 360. Neil completely messes up. So once again, it's all on Richie here. Richie has to make sure they don't get aced, but that's really poor from Richie. However, he has such a big gap that it doesn't matter as long as he makes the jump, which he will, unlike Exotica, who will have to respawn and go safe. Times are just not amazing, but they don't have to be. I mean, look at how many mistakes are happening everywhere. Neil in real trouble on Sunburn, but luckily for him, Richie has been super solid. No mistakes whatsoever. Always making sure that the red team cannot ace them. If Neil can just pull himself together, this could be over because they are 3 points away from winning the entire match. Now once again, Charles and Neil a bit behind, and they both go very high there on the reactor, costing them even more. But we know that Exotic has a very slow water section here, so he will allow Neil to catch up. This time it's Neil with an even worse one, so it's actually Charles who catches up. And the Muskers gotta make sure they do something here about the situation because it's almost over for them. Richie going safe, loses a bit of time, but that's fine. He still stays in first, Exotica in second, Neil in third. Charles loses a bit more, and now onto the crucial section. Who can make the jump? Neil has to slow down a lot. Neil will have to go safe. Exotica makes it barely, and Charles overtakes Neil. It's only gonna be a draw because Richie once again gets first. So far, Richie's simply unbeatable here. And as long as he keeps it up, there's nothing the Muskers can do. As soon as I say that, of course, it's Richie crashing, and this is the golden opportunity here for the Muskers. If they want to come back, they have to take full advantage of this round. Neil has been extremely shaky. He has made a mistake in almost every round, if not every round. So now that Richie is over 2 seconds behind, this has to be the round where they finally win. Can they do so? Charles, massive mistake. Exotica, super slow exit. And it's Neil in first. Can Neil be the one who's gonna deny? Great job so far by Neil. Needs to make sure he doesn't get slide locked. He's going for the normal turnaround, makes it work just barely. Exotica not really catching up. And Charles with an additional respawn, pretty much guaranteeing himself a last spot here. Can Neil make the jump? Let's see. Neil does make it and will deny Exotica. So that's gonna be the victory for DG and Tascad. And that's gonna be the match. 3-0 for Neil and Richie. Very, very convincing. And that means they will go up against Puff Bros in the winner bracket final, with the Muskers dropping down to the loser bracket. The other one is over as well, right? Let me see. Okay, we're 1 point away here. Let's see. It seems like both matches were extremely one-sided. And yeah, as predicted, it's Energized playing today, which is interesting. I think out of the two, yesterday, Neiko was definitely the better player. However, due to the rules, Lingo has to play. So it's always the other two who can alternate. And right now, Pack and Carl looking as good as always. They only need 1 point. Energized with a respawn from Pack. With an amazing crash. I haven't seen that in a while there. Actually clips the checkpoint and has to respawn a million times. And Carl has such a big lead here over Energized. He's been in this situation a million times, knows exactly what to do. We'll go for the 360, same with Lingo, who actually overtakes for first, but it doesn't really matter. Carl has 9 seconds of a lead. Will he even go safe? I mean, he can afford to mess up like 2 or 3 times. And he goes for the jump. Look at the times. 106.19. Insane time by Lingo, but it's just not enough. So Puff Bros will also stay in the winner bracket. Let's see if he can maybe step it up in this match and show what he can do on Ascension. Here we go, the Muskers Gaming versus LNN. Who's gonna stay alive in the tournament and who's gonna drop out in 4th place? Who can bounce back from the loss in the previous round better? See Lingo already with a huge mistake. Smashes right into the turn, has to respawn, even an Energize with an even bigger respawn, and look at this. This is looking like an amazing pick here by Charles and Exotica, who are over 6 seconds ahead. And all they gotta do is not crash. And now they have 10 seconds. Like, surely they cannot throw this because the Lingo keeps respawning. Energize as well, 12 seconds behind. Charles has crashed, but he doesn't even have to drift here. It's gonna be enough. They can both go safe if they want to. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen this big of a lead to secure an ace. This is insane. Do they even want to jump? Do they want to risk getting stuck in a respawn loop? No, they just do it very safe. And that's gonna be 3-0 for Damascus. Great job by both of them. Both are doing it very safe, not taking any risks whatsoever. Because when you do, this is exactly what can happen. But to be fair, they did have 13 seconds, so even if something went wrong, they were so far ahead that they could have respawned and still got the ace. So strong start by them. And Energize and Lingo need to bounce back straight away, otherwise they're in trouble. And Lingo already, first mistake. Charles following it up with a mistake of his own. But Lingo keeps clipping and it's really not looking good for him. Here we have an Exotica versus Energize for first. Exotica, great exit there. Energize dropping down a little bit, but then look at this attack there on the dirt block. Trying to overtake for first. Both of them making a jump, but then Energize clips. He released way too much. Seems like Lingo has very little speed as well, and all of a sudden Exotica all alone in first will be able to save it if he wants to, because Energize is quite far behind. Both of them keeping the gear. Energize around the same distance, not really catching up, but then Exotica gets a horrendous ice section. He's really having trouble there, and could it be a counter ace straight away? Looks like it will, and Exotica saving too much. I'm not even sure how he was able to lose that much on ice. And all that good work in round one completely negated. 3-3 equal score. Unfortunately, Exotica struggling on ice too much, manages to lose like 0.7 if not more. And LNN are back in the game. Let's see, round 3. Who is gonna step up and take the lead in the match? It's not gonna be Charles, who has made an early mistake. And it seems like LNN are not affected too much by their early respawns. Looking great in round 3, both making the jump. It's only an Exotica who they gotta fight off, but then it's Lingo crashing where nobody really crashes ever. Leaving Exotica in first, but we know what happened last round. Can he avoid history repeating itself? This time Energize is much closer, but then completely messes up that section and will drop down by around half a second. Exotica, again, strange line there. Loses it all. Energize with a much better exit, has so much more exit speed. Exotica will drop down to second, has a pretty decent jump. Can he make it? No. Loses by 200s with Lingo in third, and that will be a victory for LNN. And so far in Exotica's ice section is really costing his team. He just cannot make it work and keeps losing over half a second there. Charles, on the other hand, cannot even complete a clean round. And this time it's Exotica who makes a massive mistake, leaving Charles 1v2. Can Charles get the job done? Lingo very tight on the inside. Charles crashes on the outside. And this is an amazing opportunity for Lingo and Energized. Can they secure the ace here? We know Charles has the pace, but he hasn't been that consistent so far, except when it comes to crashing. Can this be the run where he turns it around? Definitely not. He has to standing respawn, and It's looking like this might be over. Lingo is struggling, but he's so far ahead that it doesn't matter unless he makes an additional mistake. Does the ice slide well? No problem so far. Can they both make the jumps? Yes, seems like they are aware they're far ahead. And they both do it very safely. Together into the finish to secure an ace. 8-4 for LNN. Yeah, and Exotica goes into the ice slide way too late. He goes too high up on the bob block. And loses way too much time. That also means he's gonna have a very poor exit in addition. So it's all going wrong right now for Charles and Exotica. Keep in mind that this is the second regional, not the first one. So the players have had plenty of time to prepare and to fix the mistakes from the first one. But now let's see if Damascus can secure a counter ace of their own, but no. As soon as I say that, it's Charles flipping upside down, has to respawn. And it's Exotica versus Lingo and Energize, who are just looking for a victory. It would be enough for them to take map number 1. Exotica still in the mix, but it's the ice section coming up. Can he do something here against Lingo, who is an amazing ice player? Energize trying to attack for second. Exotica gets a very poor ice slide yet again. Energize is in second. Lingo makes the jump and Exotica has way more speed, but it doesn't matter because he needed to get first. And that's gonna be it. Map number 1 goes to LNN. I mean, both the Damascus players just don't look up for it today at all. I think Exotica is showing something, but then he's like Bambi on ice, and Charles just fully dies every round. Both of them are not on it. So this might be a very quick exit in day 2 for them. With Lingo and Energize surely looking forward to playing the next match, and hopefully for them maybe going into the grand final even. But more on that later. First they gotta complete the job here. They're only 1-0 up. And anything can happen still. Let's see, Charles already made a mistake. First chance he got. Exotica also very slow, allowing the other two to go up in the lead. Charles with a respawn, he's gonna be fully out of this one. Lingo over the gap, but manages to make it work. All the players avoiding clipping or crashing. Son Exotica makes his way into second, Lingo in first, and we know how fast Lingo is here. So it's gonna be very difficult for an Exotica to keep up. Energized opens up the turn very nicely, has loads of exit speed. And Exotica does it really well, so Energized will not be able to catch up a lot here. Lingo still holding strong in first, and I think LNN would be very happy with a victory in round number 1. We still have the ending left. Can all of the players make it through? Lingo so far, all good. Exotica as well. Will anyone clip here in the NASCAR section? They also are, but then Exotica crashes. Energize takes over, makes the jump, and that will be an ace. Once again, amazing time by Lingo. These times in a match are incredible. If you play like this, and let's say both players are playing like this, there's very, very few teams who can keep up. So Lingo and Sunburn looking incredibly strong. And Exotica and Charles are really up against it here. Can they pull off a miracle here, as Lingo has made an early mistake from driving an incredible time into completely dying? That's Lingo for you. With Energize as well making a mistake of his own. And right now Charles and Exotica alone in first. This is the chance to get the ace. Can they just stay ahead? They have almost 2 seconds. Avoiding the water bounce. They're not crashing the exit. It's all good so far. The gap is growing. Now it's over 2 seconds. Look at Charles going so wide. He's not leaving anything to chance. Doing a great job so far. Charles with the 360, Exotica with the normal turnaround. Both make it work. Energize can't really come any closer, and neither can Lingo. They can both go safe, but will they do so? Charles goes for the jump, makes it, and Exotica goes safe, very smart, but makes an actual mess of it. And just barely secures the ace. Now, if you do the safe way well, you will lose around 0.8. However, an Exotica got stuck just a little bit. So, he just made it interesting. But it was good enough, and it's 3-3. The Muskets still showing some signs of life, and showing that they want to keep fighting to stay in the tournament. No mistakes in their start this time. Good start by Lingo, and when he survives the start, he's very dangerous here. All four players still very close to each other, who can now get the best exit out of the water section. Lingo dropping back just a little bit. Nobody crashes the exit, and look at this round. Lingo then does it by far the best. Manages to pull away even further. And Energize crashing into the checkpoint. Not a big mistake. He's still in it though. He can get a really nice ice section. He decides to go for the slow one, but overtakes Charles, who clips on the exit. So it's up to an Exotica here to make sure the Muskets don't get aced. Can they survive the NASCAR section? Lingo does, Exotica does, Energize does as well. And they all make the jump. Lingo with another 106 mid. Very strong time yet again. Victory for LNN. And Damascus having some troubles beating Lingo here. As usual, Lingo's biggest opponent is himself. So can he just avoid these early mistakes? Looks like he has crashed just as I said that. But given his pace, I think he can actually come back from this. He's only 0.6 behind, as his teammate is now way further behind. So it is up to Lingo indeed to catch up and prevent the ace. Energize almost 4 seconds behind. And so far we've seen nobody jump out. All of them with good exits, but then there's Lingo with over 170 speed. He's definitely coming closer and needs to make something happen here. Doesn't go for the other line, but doesn't have to because Charles has made a mistake. A very strange one, if I might add. And that is an amazing 360 by Lingo, who will come even closer to an Exotica. Can even maybe get the draw here. Let's see who can survive NASCAR. Both of them do. Lingo has more speed, but is a bit further behind and will not make it, but he doesn't have to. This is gonna be enough. So it's only a victory for Damascus, which will tie up the score, but Lingo caught up almost 0.6. Very impressive. Great race in the end indeed. And once again it was Charles who dropped the ball there and just couldn't survive the little jump. Let's see in the next round. Again it's Charles with a mistake. It's just not his day today. He cannot get anything going, cannot complete 2 clean rounds in a row. Makes an additional mistake. Goes very high up, leaving Exotica alone in another 1v2 situation. But then he gets wiped out completely, and this is an amazing opportunity for LNN. Can they make the best out of it? They have almost a second, so Lingo, if he wants to, can go safe. We know he won't. Energize is still not out of range from an Exotica. Let's see, very nicely done there by Energized. And, like, in theory, Energized could go for it if he gets it amazingly well. It would be enough for an ace, but... oh, he actually has to. He is going safe, and he gets sniped. It seems like he got a slowdown here on the exit off of this beam. So he was actually forced to go safe. And because he got a slowdown, he fell back within the range. And Exotica was able to overtake. But still quick decision making there for Energized. And Charles, man, what is he doing? He actually fails the very first jump. So again, it's an Exotica versus 2, and He has to get first here. He has to beat Lingo, otherwise it's over. Because all LNN need is a victory. And we know how fast Lingo is, so can Exotica even do it here? Does he have the capability to beat Lingo, but Energize with a respawn? Where is Charles? Charles is ahead, but Exotica falls off. What is happening here? Can this even be a draw? Where is Energized? Energized has gone up to second, but he's making a complete mess of it. Gets overtaken by Charles. So now it's Exotica versus Energized. Right now it's still around for LNN. So this is the crucial battle here. Can Exotica overtake? Yes, he can, because Energized with another mistake. What is happening right now? Energized really struggling. Charles can go safe if he wants to. Exotica, not really. He will have to go for the jump. Charles makes it, and Exotica makes it, and they stay alive, just barely. Lingo with another incredible time. And Energized crashed pretty much everywhere he could, making sure that LNN do not get their second map win. Let's see, we are coming closer to overtime. LNN only need a draw. So if Lingo wins here, it's all over. Doesn't really matter what Energize does if Lingo drives one of those 106 lows. Can he make it happen? Charles has not been wiped out yet, so that's a massive improvement for him. Trying to contest Lingo there in first. Energized is in last. Goes very wide together with Exotica. And Lingo a bit slower this time. Energized really lucky there to survive, unlike Exotica. So this might be over anyway. Doesn't matter if Charles wins here if an Exotica is 4 seconds behind. Energized has dropped back a little bit, but he just needs to make sure he survives. If he's aware of where he is and where Exotica is, he should go safe here. He doesn't have to overtake Charles, he just has to overtake Exotica. Charles goes for the jump, Lingo survives, and that's gonna be it. Energized, very smart, just what I said. Secures the draw. And Charles with his online PB, but unfortunately for him, it's not enough. And it's a little too late. He finally draw a clean round. But, yeah, results only in a draw. And that's 2-0 LNN. And we're going to Limbo, which is Damascus' last chance of coming back into this match. Can they finally get it done? They definitely played better on the Sunburn compared to Ascension. But can they step it up even more and finally get a map win? Because right now they've lost 5 out of 5 today. Let's quickly rifle through the PBs. Let's see who is looking better. In theory, of course, Energized with a 107.04. Lingo 106.2, very solid. 106.7 for an Exotica and 106.2 for Charles. So again, in theory, Energized the slowest, but as we know, it doesn't have to mean anything. Let's see what happens in round 1 here. Lingo dropping down. Can still survive the jump here, but decides to go around. He will lose a lot of ground compared to the others. Exotica also clips, but he's still in the fight here as Charles crashes the NASCAR section. And all of a sudden, it's Energized in first. Not really being contested by anyone. Has a massive lead of 0.6. Charles just makes sure he's ahead of Lingo. And we are going into the cinema section of the map. Following the turnaround here, Charles has to respawn, allowing Lingo to overtake. Can Energize survive here? That was pixel close, but then doesn't make it. Exotica is in first. Lingo has also had to respawn, and could this be an ace? That's another respawn for Energize. This should be an ace here, and Exotica makes it. Charles in second. Great jump by Charles, and this is 3-0 Damascus. This is exactly the kind of start they needed. And so far, Limbo is not proving to be a good pick for LNN, who are struggling a lot here. Can this be the start of a comeback? Let's see if the players can first of all just survive Limbo. Because that was only a 108. This is, of course, the most difficult map to drive well. It's extremely difficult to drive 106 mids or lower consistently. Can any of the players step up and really show what they've got on Limbo? Energize with an insane start as an Exotica makes a mistake. But can Energize follow it up with a solid second half of the map? So far, so good for LNN. Exotica too far behind, but we have seen players be that far behind and come back. Poor turnaround there for Energize. Will lose a little bit compared to Charles. And he has to respawn, and he's dropped the ball yet again in the same section. Leaving Lingo in first, Charles in second. So it's looking much better for Damascus. Here Lingo clips as well. So Charles will go up to first even and can secure the draw here. He doesn't know that he has the lead, but will go safely over the finish line with Exotica in last. Great job there by Charles, and he's looking much better after that last round on Sunburn. He has finally woken up, and that gives Damascus a much better chance. Ooh, poor start by Energize, and he is really in trouble here. So far, 2 respawns in the second half, and now he's even falling down in the beginning. That's a mistake by Charles, but he can still make it. Lingo has to take an alternative line, and all of a sudden it's looking like another ace for Damascus, because Lingo and Energize are both losing more and more. Can the blue duo just survive NASCAR here? Yes, they can. Both with acceptable drifts will make it through. They still have almost half a second compared to the red duo. Can they get the turnaround done? Both of them nicely done. Lingo is coming just a little bit closer, but it's still not enough. Both onto the bob. Make it through. They gotta avoid crashing. Very, very safe. Very nicely done. They can jump high if they want to. Both of them do exactly that. Lingo is going for the low one, and Lingo cannot make it. Crashes onto the right side of the finish, and that's 7-1 for Damascus. Amazing job on Limbo. Energize just cannot drive a clean run here, and Lingo is having these smaller mistakes, and his pace just isn't bailing him out as it usually does. And once again, Energize with the exact same mistake, leaving Lingo in a 1v2. And this is exactly what Damascus need. They don't even care about aces that much. They just gotta get the draw. But Charles has made a mistake, but it's fine as long as Exotica stays in second. I think they would also take a loss at this point, because it would get them 1 point closer to the promised land, which is their first map win. Lingo is still not out of the woods, because the second half of the map is coming up, and that's a massive mistake there by Lingo. Leaving Exotica alone in first. Has over a second of a lead. Can he just make it happen? Can he get it done? No problem so far. Another respawn by Energize. And will this even be an ace? What is happening here? Is it gonna be 10-1? He knows he can go safe. Very smart there by Exotica. Charles can also go safe, decides not to, and that will be the third ace on Limbo, and a 10-1 extremely convincing victory by Damascus over LNN. They are not out yet, and we are going to map 4. What a comeback here. Extremely solid performance by an Exotica especially, but Charles has also stepped up, and he's just made sure that his mistakes weren't as big as Energize's mistakes. Now we have not seen Reunion yet today, so let's see what the players can serve up. And this should be a massive confidence boost for Charles and Exotica. It's their first map win of the day. And we know that Lingo and Energize can sometimes be a bit shaky. Let's see if this is gonna affect them, or if they'll be able to close it out and move on to the next round, which would be the consolidation final. So here we go on Reunion. First round. who can start off on the front foot. All of them making it through the start, no big issues. Just gotta avoid crashing, doesn't matter if it's a bit slower. All of them getting the drift, but then Exotica clipping. Leaving it up to Charles to make sure they don't get aced. All of them making it through the ice section. Energized a bit behind his teammate Lingo. Oh, both very close to the wall. Charles will drop down. And right now it's looking amazing for LNN. Can they get the ace first round? Nobody going over the gap. Very, very safe driving here, which will allow Charles to come back and contest the second place. And Energized gets completely wiped out. That's a massive mistake. Will drop down to last, leaving Lingo completely alone in first. He can do whatever he wants. He can drop a few gears. It's not really gonna matter. He just has to make sure he doesn't fall off the map. Charles bouncing a bit, but doesn't matter because Energized is 6 seconds behind. So Lingo will complete the round with a 107.4, which is a really, really good match time as well. And that will be a draw. Energize struggling a lot. And this is what I meant when I said that maybe it's Neko who should have played, because he looked pretty good yesterday. And Energize so far making lots and lots of mistakes. Round 2, Lingo once again in first. Looking very, very strong on Reunion. So maybe Limbo is his weak spot. His teammate, on the other hand, is in last. Struggling with that drift, will drop down even further. And that's a mistake by Lingo. So all of a sudden, it's the blue duo in the lead. Looking to get their first ace on Reunion, not taking any chances. Once again, avoiding the gap. Look at them driving hand in hand. Have a 0.3 lead over Energize. Energize once again cannot do the drift. So it's up to Lingo to somehow catch up 0.9, but Exotica allows him to do so. That is gonna be very costly. That was the golden opportunity for the blue duo. But then Exotica throws it all the way. Charles will secure first. Lingo in second. Energize in third. 4.5 seconds behind. But that is almost like an unacceptable mistake on the Bob exit. That should never ever happen. They were both 0.9 ahead. All they had to do was drive into the finish. And now it's Charles making an early mistake. And both the blue players are their own worst enemies, honestly. They're just making weird mistakes when they're not even being pressured. Allowing Lingo and Energize to have a pretty good chance of securing their third map win and the entire match. Charles 9.5 seconds behind. He is definitely out of this one. It's up to Exotica to make sure he doesn't fail the bob this time and at least get second. All of them, again, going safe. Clearly not watching APAC, who were going as far over the gap as they could have. Energize is struggling a lot on this map. With the Lingo and Exotica further up ahead. Right now it's looking like a draw, and Exotica makes it work, but loses so much time compared to Lingo, who will try to attack here. Oh, but then drops the gear. Allows Exotica to pull away. And looks like we will get the third draw in a row. A very slow round, this one. But I'm sure Exotica won't mind. Charles, after a few solid ones, makes a very early mistake. Had to respawn even. And wasn't able to keep up with the group. So can he bounce back straight away? Both teams are looking very shaky on Reunion. Loads of mistakes coming in from both sides. And nobody really having a stronghold on this map. This time around, however, no clips yet. No slides. Nicely done by everyone. Onto the wood section, who can generate the most exit speed over this press forward section here. All of them doing a great job. Onto the drift. All of them surviving again. Lingo very close to crashing, but makes it work. So it's Exotica who falls down just a little bit, but it's definitely still within striking distance. Very safe. Energized then fully into the wall, as does Exotica, but Exotica takes a lot less damage. And will be able to at least stay in third. Charles with a slightly better drift than Lingo, but then much worse exit angle. Will allow Lingo to pull away, so this could be another draw. And let's go back, see what the other two are doing. Looks like Energized has overtaken Exotica for the third place, and that could be really important here. Looks like we will get the first victory here for LNN, because Exotica couldn't keep the third place. 5-4 for LNN. They are halfway there. 5 more points, and they will secure at least third place in the second regional. Into the next round we go. Better start for the red duo. Going very tight to the wall. Charles just a little bit behind, but it's all good. He can definitely catch up. And then Exotica gets wiped out. And it's all on Charles. Can he catch up here? Because Exotica is 2 seconds behind. Lingo then crashes. It gives an amazing chance to Charles. Because we know that Energized pretty much cannot even complete this map. So can Charles just get it done? And it is, however, this time making it a bit more difficult than usual. As the Lingo drops down even further, all the way to last place. Charles way more exit speed there. Will go up to first. And the Damascus are looking to tie things up once again. If they can just keep this formation and make sure they get the victory. Energized trying to attack, but the ending result is him dropping the gear. Charles close there to the wall, but doesn't get wiped out. Will secure first, Exotica in third, and that will be the scores tied up once again at 6-6. We have a real match going on Reunion. Now, if anyone could get the ace here, that would be massive. Who can hold their nerves the best? And who can step up now that we're getting closer and closer to the ending of Reunion? Energize and Exotica struggling a little bit, but they make it work. All players once again getting the drift. Surviving the start of Reunion. With Energized a bit at the back, but no problem. He can come back from this, as Exotica has a very poor drift. And will drop down to last. Great fight from Lingo and Charles, as Charles then makes a mistake, has to go full risk inside. Makes it work though. And he is still fighting here. It's crucial that he gets the second place here. Otherwise, LNN will go 9-6 up. Get some more exit speed and Energize, and even comes closer to Lingo. This is a very important round. Can Energize make something happen? No, he can just crash. And once again, we're looking at a drop, but then Charles crashes as well. So once again, we are looking at only a victory for LNN. So many swaps there in the end. Victory. So it's a victory, which means both teams can secure the map win. Damascus needing an ace and LNN needing a victory. A draw would mean we get at least one more round. And the victory for Damascus would mean we're almost down to overtime with a 9-9. So let's see who can make it happen here. Oh, that's a massive mistake by Lingo, who is the carry player for LNN. And this is it. This is what Damascus were waiting for. Lingo is out, almost 2 seconds behind. They gotta take this opportunity right now. There might not be another one. Energize has been very shaky. He has not completed a clean round on Reunion. Can he do it now? That the pressure is at an all-time high. Because it's all up to him, and he's doing a great job so far. Because he overtakes an Exotica. Can he even overtake for first and keep the same points gap? Nicely done. Fighting with Charles for first. Great turn, but then Charles fights back. Energize struggling, but Charles struggling even more, and Energize will actually win the round with Exotica coming in third. And that is a massive, massive throw by Damascus. Because 108.5 is not a good time. That was the chance for them to get the ace when Lingo made a mistake. And right now Energize is already out. But that might not matter, because if Lingo wins the round, it's all over. So as usual, it is up to Lingo here. Can Lingo secure the win? It's all on his shoulders. If he gets the win, the match is over. If he makes a mistake, we're probably going to the decider map. Charles has to respawn, and that is terrible. Even Energizer will catch up to him. So all of a sudden, Exotica has to get first, and that's exactly where he is because Lingo has choked. So right now, this is a draw, which is not enough for Damascus. Charles has to overtake one more. Can he do it? This is still a map win for LNN. So really, we gotta see what Energize is doing. If he makes a mistake, Charles will be there to take full profit of it. And if not, it's over. Exotica into the finish. Lingo safely into the finish. Energize will do it, and that is it. 10-9 for LNN. What a mess that was in the end. But they get it done, and that means the Damascus are out of the tournament in 4th place, and LNN will make their way into the next round, which is the consolidation final. Definitely rough. They had their chance. And look at this. This is so much closer than I expected. So it's 2-1 for Puff Bros. They can secure the match here, but DG and Tascat can also secure their second map win. I did not see this coming on Ellipse. And these two definitely look like the two strongest teams. So I think no matter who loses here, we're gonna see the same matchup in the grand final. Because LNN did not look that convincing at all. I mean, Lingo drives amazing times here and there, but he's nowhere near consistent enough. And Energize is not fast nor consistent. This is super close, like anyone can still take this. Neil a bit behind and now has made a mess of it. So it's up to Richie really. Oh, but Richie messes up and that should be the match. Wow, and this is why they're so good. When it matters the most, look at the times. 110-9, 111-0. Pretty much unbeatable. And that's 3-1. Let's see who can take it. As we saw in the previous match, Lingo and Energize were looking very poor on Limbo. Not absolutely destroyed. And Richie and Neil are supposed to be even better on this map. So let's see if they can get it done. Round 1, here we go. And that's an early mistake there by Lingo. Was already behind as his teammate Energized, leaving Neil and Richie with a massive gap to work with. But then Neil clips, allows Lingo to come back. Richie holding strong in first. Lingo jumps too far on the right, has to release. Do not fully crash. I mean, it's smart decision making, but he's gonna be very far behind. So far, the round is not the quickest, judging by the checkpoints, but that's all the blue team needs. They have a very nice lead. They're over half a second ahead. Now let's look at this special line here. Looks so fast, that turnaround. Neil also getting it done. And the Lingo only dropping further and further behind. Can Richie and Neil just close out the round? Let's see. Can they avoid crashing? Nicely done so far. Which strategy will they go for? Both of them jumping high and both of them make it. With 107 low and mid, which is probably gonna be good enough in this match. So great start on their first pick. 3-0 up against LNN. Let's see if Energize and Lingo can step up on Limbo. And they gotta wake up soon, otherwise it's gonna be all over. Much better start this time, but as I say, that double crash by Energized. And he's gonna have a mountain to climb here as Lingo is far ahead in first. Great start, but then completely messes up his angles and will allow both Neil and Richie to overtake. This time the round is much quicker. Let's see if Lingo can keep up with the blue duo here. We know he's gonna lose a little bit in the turnaround as long as they do it well. So he will have to find some other section where he can fully catch up. Yeah, just look at this. Richie pulls away so much, but then completely misses the road and will have to respawn together with Energize. So it's Neil and Lingo for first place. Neil has to make sure he stays in first, but Lingo is attacking, has way more speed here. But then goes wider, has to release, allows Neil to overtake for first yet again. Neil goes low, Lingo goes high, both survive. And that will be a win for Neil with a 106.9. Richie in third and Energize far, far behind. Still arguing with his wife and unable to complete the round without mistakes.
Victory.
That is 5-1 for DG and Tascad. And it's gonna be extremely difficult for LNN to mount a comeback here. Again, Energize is struggling a lot. Limbo really is not his map. And it's all up to Lingo to save something from round number 3. But then he's having some struggles of his own. Keeps dropping further and further compared to Neil and Richie, who have both amazing round checkpoints here. They are so far ahead that they can already save it if they want to. But then Neil, that is a very strange mistake. Will allow Lingo to overtake him for second. Energize with a respawn. He's not gonna do anything in this round. Let's see if Neil can get his second place back. Richie avoids respawning, doing amazing. No problems this time. And I'm sure he would be happy with another victory. As long as they don't get aced, they're gonna be fine. Neil touches. Can go safe just to secure the third place. Because Lingo will get second. And times are getting better and better. Must be hard to juggle a clean round when his wife is talking his ear off. That is true. I think that explains why he's playing this way. And right now, with Energize just not even being able to finish, there's simply nothing Lingo can do. Even if he wins the round, it's only gonna be a draw. So he's really fighting a losing battle here. This time it's Energize surviving the start at least, and it's his teammate Lingo making a mistake. Manages to survive, at least doesn't have to respawn, so that's good. But we'll have to overcome an almost 0.6 deficit. Still looking good for Richie and Neil. They're looking to get another victory, but I'm sure they would absolutely take the ace just to wrap up map number 1. I stay down and let's look at this Energize versus Richie and look at the difference. 0.4 of a difference due to Richie's strategy there. Absolutely incredible what he's found. Absolutely demolishing everyone in the turnaround as Neil goes up to second, and this should be the ace. With Richie going low, Neil going high, both make it, and that will be at 106.22. Richie looking like the Limbo King. Very, very impressive performance. Completely dominated against LNN. And they will be 1-0 up going into Sunburn. Yeah, nice one, Firelight. Maybe that's why his wife is angry with him. He can't finish. Well, let's see. Maybe he is better at finishing on Sunburn. Now, as we remember, Lingo was extremely strong here. This is his best map based on what we've seen today. And Neil, on the other hand, has looked quite weak here. It was his worst map based on what we've seen. So this map could be very even between the teams. Can Lingo and Energize get their first map win of the match? Or will Neil and Richie get one step closer to a rematch against Carl and Pack? Good start by everyone. Neil is just a little bit slower. That's fine, however. He can overcome the deficit. Catches one already. However, Lingo is in first, holding strong. Trying to fight off Richie. All of them survive the beam. Energize. Unfortunately not, so it's a 2v1 up ahead. Lingo still doing great, but looks like he has found his match in Richie, who can definitely match him for pace. Nicely done through the checkpoint, all three of them. Which strategy will they go for here? They'll set up for the 360. Neil actually goes for the normal turnaround, and that will allow Lingo to pull away. Energize is way too far behind to make anything happen, but Lingo still has to survive the jump here. He is not in the clear yet, and he will do so. Neil goes safe. Richie makes the jump. Nicely done there by Neil again. He knew that by going safe, he's not gonna get caught by Energized. But if he goes safe and Lingo makes a mistake, he's definitely gonna overtake. So, great decision making, even though the outcome did not change at all. 1-1, thanks to Lingo's amazing performance yet again. Can Lingo just keep it up and hope that his teammate can pull himself together a little bit and stop respawning first of all. Once again, Energize a bit behind the pack. Needs to catch up, at least doesn't slide out here, so that's good. Will go a bit higher than the rest once again in the turnaround. And manages to avoid a respawning here this time. He's fully catching up to Neil. Pretty good turn, gets way more exit speed thanks to Neil clipping on the right. But once again we are looking at a draw because Richie is not giving away that first place and Lingo crashes. And this could be huge trouble for LNN. Because once Lingo is in last, it's all on Energize, who makes another mistake, and it's looking like an ace for Richie and Neil. Does Richie know that he's super far ahead and that he can take it safe? This does not look safe at all. He gets the checkpoint at least. Neil will go safe. He doesn't know that he cannot do so. Lingo wins. Energize in third, Neil in second. And it all flips upside down because Richie just risked too much in the NASCAR section. And Neil concedes his first place to Lingo because he went safe in a round where he shouldn't have. So all of a sudden it's LNN leading the match. After I praised Neil in round 1, he made the wrong decision in round 2, definitely. It was Richie who should have saved the NASCAR section and then went safe. And Neil was the one who had to risk, but they actually did the opposite. And they find themselves at 1 point behind. But it's all good. I'm sure they're still very comfortable. That's a massive mistake there by Neil, who flipped the same way Pac did in one of the matches we saw before. So once again, it is Richie in first, but we have seen him have some trouble in that end. Energize really far behind to attack the front, and the Lingo with an insane 360 will pull super close here to Richie, who can get the better ending. Now is the time for both to risk. Lingo gets it much better, and look at the speed from Lingo, who will win the round. Richie in second. Energize goes safe because Neil is 10 seconds almost behind. And that is another victory for LNN. Lingo carrying very hard here. And Energized making sure that at least he's contributing.
Victory.
He's not getting last, which is very important. 5-3 for LNN. They're halfway there. 5 more points and they will tie up the score. Oh, Energize going wide. At least he doesn't slide out. Stays in the round. The other 3 very close to each other. Can they all keep the gear here? Nicely done. Neil drops it. Goes high up again. I think he's just trying to save it so he doesn't have to respawn again. Goes a bit wider even. And then Lingo jumps, and that's so unfortunate. And that means this could be an ace for Neil and Richie. They have a massive lead. It's only Energized who actually has made a mistake of his own. That is 3.5 seconds that they have. They should recognize it. They should both go safe, definitely. They can afford to save the beam. Let's see. Does Richie know that he can take it safe? That was not safe at all. This is not safe. Richie once again making a mess of it. And he's pretty much forced to take it safe because he couldn't even make the jump. So Richie actually gets lucky that he failed the beam, so that he was forced to go to the safe finish. And the Lego complaining about water. Now, I will actually say that he does have a point. I think that's just very unfortunate what happened to him. It's not random, but at the same time, on a human level, it's not good either. You pretty much have to have X-ray vision to see exactly where the bottom of the water is level and where there's a little downhill. And I don't think you can even blame the players when that happens. It's just very poor game design. So by that, DG and Testcut are actually 1 point ahead, and now Richie, I have no clue how he survived. Doesn't even have the speed for this. He doesn't. He took the risk, massively backfired, and this is an opportunity for Lingo and Energized to counter race straight away. We know Neil likes to go safe, but this is not the round to do that. He has to secure at least second here, which would tie up the score. Neil going for the 360, makes it work. So does Energize, even better than Neil. And all of a sudden, Neil is in third. He has to catch up to second here. Otherwise, they will get aced back straight away. Energized makes it, Neil doesn't. Can they both make the jump? Lingo doesn't, has to respawn, but he has another chance. And he does make it a second time, and there will be a counter ace for Ellen. We're 8-6 up now. Great work there by Energized. Maybe he is a bit taking some advice from his wife about how to do the ending, and it is working. As they are on a checkpoint, all they gotta do is get a victory. And if Lingo can drive those low 106s, then it might be enough to get them over the line. But then he makes a massive mistake, has to respawn. So this is all on Energize now. Will we see the third ace in a row? Richie very far ahead, Neil in second. Energized has to make sure he gets second here. Good water drift, but then completely messes up the exit. And once again, the other team has a completely free ace. They can't afford to save it. We saw what happened last time to Richie when he tried to save. Or did he? That is actually the question. They have almost 4.5 seconds. But judging by the way Richie is playing, he doesn't know. Neil does know. Let's see. Neil nicely done. Richie will go for the jump. Neil goes safe. And Richie makes a mess of this whole situation. Energized was unfortunately not close enough. Again, bad decision making there by Richie, who just doesn't recognize the situation and risks the entire end. But he doesn't get punished because Energized was too far behind. So that's an ace for DG and Tascad. 9-8 up, and now they're only a draw away from winning their second map. The teams are trading aces. Let's see if there's gonna be another ace in this round, which would tie up the entire map. Either side could win the map with an ace. All players still very close to each other, all of them surviving the start. Energy is a bit higher up than the rest, will have to drop down to last. And is relying on Lingo to get first so that he can maybe go up third and get the victory to go into overtime. Right now, though, it's looking very good for Neil and Richie. Richie holding strong in first, but he's having so many issues in the end that anything can happen here still. Let's see the strategies they go for. Both with the 360, Richie makes a mess of it. Will have to drop down to second. Neil has dropped down to last, and all of a sudden it does look like We will go to overtime, but can they all survive the ending? Lingo makes it, Richie makes it, Energize makes it, and we will have overtime for the first time today.
Victory.
All of them making the ending.
Overtime.
Both teams are looking for a victory or an ace right now. A draw will just keep us in the overtime, and that's the first mistake of the round by Lingo here. But we know he's really fast, so if anyone can catch up a gap like this, it's definitely him, even though it is 1 second. The pressure is very high at the moment, and any further mistake could decide the entire round. Nicely done there by Energize, who will at least survive, but then falls off, and this could be over. Once again, Neil and Richie are ahead, and once again, they have a big enough gap to even go for the safe finish. Richie doesn't like doing that. He likes to give us a show. Let's see. Lingo is, however, catching up, so all of a sudden they actually cannot go safe because Lingo will overtake if they do so. They have to go for the jump. Richie makes it, Neil doesn't. But look at where Energize is. So it doesn't matter that Neil doesn't make it because he had another 5 or 6 attempts left. Energize has completely given up on the round. And that is a 2-1.
Victory.
I mean 12-11 for DG and Tascad and 2-0 in the maps. Yeah, the wife is not gonna be happy with that one. I mean, they did put up a fight, as expected on Sunburn. And that will be something that Puff Bros will look at. Seeing how many mistakes Richie has made in the end, and how shaky Neil is there compared to other maps. Sunburn does look like a map that Puff Bros could win against them. And now map number 3, Ascension, where we know that both Neil and Richie looked really good, especially Neil today. Neil on this map was amazing. 0 mistakes, made sure they never got aced, won most of the rounds. If he can play like that again, and if Richie can step it up a little bit, then I think Lingo and Energized have no chance here. Oh, that was a small touch by Neil, but it doesn't really matter. He can catch up because Energize is already out of the round. So it's only Lingo they gotta play against. That is another touch by Neil, however. And he is not showing up as strong as he did in match number 1. Richie doing a great job in first. Lingo trying to attack because he knows that Energize is super far behind and cannot really do anything this round. So it's up to Lingo here to try to save the job, but he makes a mistake. Will drop the gear, as does Richie. It's all of a sudden it's Neil bursting through all of them and going up to first place even. Still looking very good for Neil and Richie to get their first ace of Ascension. Both making the jump. Neil has no speed, but that will still be enough to stay ahead of Lingo. Times are very slow, but you just gotta play against what's in front of you. And that's exactly what Neil and Richie did. First ace of Ascension goes to DG and Tascad, and this is looking like complete despair for LNN. They gotta do something here quickly, otherwise the match is gonna run away from them. Now, for some reason the name tags have died. I have no idea why. We're just gonna continue anyway, as Neil has to respawn. Energize is in third, doing a bit better this round, is still in contention. And the name tags are back. Once again, Richie in first, Lingo in second, same story, but then Lingo makes a mistake. Energize gets promoted to second. Neil is so far behind that Lingo will be fine in third at least. And we don't really have any close fights in this round. It's looking like all the players could just save their way to their current positions. So let's go on board with Richie. That's a poor ice exit. Allows Energize to come a lot closer. Can he survive the jumps at least? Yes, he can, as does Energize. Lingo in third. Makes all the jumps. Risks for no reason whatsoever. He did not need to go that low. And that is a draw. I think DG and Taskat will be happy with after a shaky round. And Neil is just not looking anywhere near as good as he did in the first match. So far, 2 mistakes. Needs to bounce back. Needs to use this as a warm-up for the grand final. Let's see if round number 3 is where he starts shining. After getting a bit of a slower start. But he is in the mix though. At least doesn't have to respawn this time. But it's Richie then who makes a mistake. So they're trading places, and this round it's Neil's time to make sure they don't get aced. Great jump there. Richie has to respawn. He is completely out. And this is looking like another draw. Again, Neil and Richie just trading mistakes. But each time one of them survives. Not giving away an easy ace to Lingo and Energize. Now we know Lingo is a really good ice player, so can he maybe catch up to Neil following the ice slide? Definitely does catch up, but then has to release on the exit. And cannot overtake for first, so Neil will secure the draw at least. With a solid time of 107.0. And Richie not able to do anything in this round. So the gap will stay 3 points. And Neil and Richie are now 5 points away from going to the grand final and getting a rematch against Puff Bros. It's looking dire here for Alan, who gotta at least get a victory. They cannot afford to only stick with draws. It's not really gonna get them anywhere. And that's a mistake there by Neil, I believe, because the name tags have once again disappeared. I have no idea why. That's a mistake by Richie as well. So it's up to Neil to overcome a 0.6 deficit. And make sure they don't get ace back. I mean, this is the best opportunity that LNN have had so far on Ascension. And they gotta make this work. Neil is not really catching up. Like, he is trying his best. He does have some good exit speed. And I think he's gonna be waiting for that ice section where most mistakes happen on this map. Now he has caught up around 0.15, but he definitely needs more. That is a solid ice slide. We'll have a nice and tight exit. Let's see if both red players can make the jumps here. Yes, they can, and they will get their first ace. That is an amazing time by Lingo. 106.8. And they're not giving up yet. 5-5. Alan and still in the match, still trying to get at least one map win and force the match to map number 4. Oh, early mistake there by Energized. Will leave Lingo alone against Richie and Neil. Well, once again, just cannot drive together and cannot secure the ace unless it's given to them. Lingo staying with the pack, not making it easy for Neil or Richie. Nicely done. Still very close to each other. He goes for higher jump, or rather a higher landing, which will give him more exit speed. However, this time it doesn't really work out, as he is only dropping further and further back compared to the blue duo. But then Neil clips right before the uphill, has to respawn because he had no speed and couldn't even make it up. So this is looking like a draw pretty much at this moment in time. Looking at the best ice exit, looks like it is Lingo. Nicely done there. But then Richie has more speed, risks way more, and will make it. So it will be another draw. And great fight there, first place by Richie and Lingo, trading that first place between each other over and over again. 6-6, coming closer to the 10-point gap. Can anyone ace at this moment in time? When you're on 6 points, that's where the ace is absolutely massive. who can hold their nerves the best, who can perform when it matters the most. Look at this start by Neil. Such a strong start, but then of course he crashes as soon as I mention him. So now it's only Richie against Energized and Lingo, and Richie has caught so much penalty grass that he drops back by over 0.4. And we'll have to catch up, but then Lingo crashes, allowing Richie to overtake for second. Energized in first, looking quite solid, just needs to make sure he stays there. And he has to trust Lingo to beat Richie on ice here. Let's see who gets the better ice slide. Super close between the two. I think Richie will have a much better exit, but then Energized messes up. All of them actually getting it quite shaky, and all of a sudden it's Richie in first. Lingo messes up, but will have enough speed to make it at least. And Energized barely beats Neil in the end for another draw. And both of them are within track point, with DG and Tascad also being able of winning the entire match with an ace. Now it's really serious. No more room for error, as Energize has a slightly slower start, but he's still in it. Then Lingo crashes. Richie is also out. And look at this, the players are so far apart. But it is looking slightly better for the blue duo, who are in a victory formation. It's only Energize who is separating them from getting the ace, but then Energize has to respawn, and now it's all on Lingo. Energize way too far behind, and Neil is way too far ahead. So it's up to Lingo really to beat Richie here for the second place, to try to survive and get another round. Maybe another chance to get an ace of their own. So far he's doing an amazing job onto the ice section. Who can get the better exit? Looks like it's gonna be Lingo barely, but then Richie has more speed because Lingo has to release. Richie is doing better, and Richie will secure the ace, following a strong round by Neil. And that will be enough to win the match. 3-0 for DG and Tascad. And they secure a rematch against Puff Bros in the grand final. Here we go, round number 1. Kicking things off. Can they all make the start? Looks like Pack has already respawned, and the pick is not looking good. So it's up to Carl Jr. there to make sure that they don't get ace straight away on what is most likely Neil and Richie's best map. Very strong start by the other 3 players. Onto the NASCAR section, all of them are making it. Getting the drift. Carl not really gaining anything here on Neil, so it's all gonna be in the second half. But then let's take a look here at Richie's turnaround, which has been amazing. And from third to first, look at this. It looks like he gets a speed boost. That's absolutely ridiculous how he does that. So Carl from first to third. And can he maybe save the situation here? No, he tries too hard. But it doesn't even matter, because Neil and Richie are far ahead. Richie makes the jump just barely, and that will be the ace. Amazing time by Neil. 106.4 is a great opening time. Richie then struggling just a little bit, but after Carl had made that mistake, he was in the clear and he knew it. DG is the Damascus Gaming, which is Neil's team, and Tascad is Richie's team. So perfect start for Neil and Richie. And this pick is looking like complete mud, because once again Pac struggling just a little bit, but at least he doesn't have to respawn, so he's still in the round. Trying to do better than in round number 1. This time within the pack. Neil, another very strong start with a 25.1 checkpoint there. All of the players are making their way into the NASCAR section, into the drift, surviving. But look at this. Once again, Neil and Richie are in the top 2, and they look to be the absolute kings of Limbo. Neil then clips. Richie is already in first, and he does have this super fast turnaround, which means he will pull away even further. Neil with a mistake, Pac with a mistake. So it's Carl versus Richie here for first. Richie with a nice 0.2 lead Can he keep it together? Carl with way more speed, but then Carl clips on the exit. It's been very shaky so far. Richie goes for the low jump, makes it. Carl goes around, makes it as well. Back for the high jump and makes it. And then Neil with the high jump, rounding out the top 4. And that's another solid time by the round winner. Another 106 mid. And that is very hard to play against. Richie is just looking incredible here. And Carl so far with 2 little clips in the endings and Pack with even bigger mistakes. This time, however, it's Richie with a slower start. Will have to catch up, but he does have an ace up his sleeve later on with the turnaround, so I'm sure he's not worried yet. He's only 0.25 behind, and this is a slightly slower round compared to the other ones. With Carl dropping just a little bit, not getting a good NASCAR section, allowing Richie to come back, and now even Pack is also struggling. So all of a sudden, Neil alone in first, and then here comes Richie. Look at this. Richie with the turn, but completely fails. He misses the reactor, and he will not make it here. Pack also same mistake as the previous round. So it's Neil versus Carl now. Neil has to slow down a lot. Carl with way more speed, but then Neil gets a better transition. So Neil will stay ahead, both going for the low jump, both make it. Let's see, Pack is stuck in a respawn loop in the worst possible part. And Richie also gets stuck. Neither of them making anything happen, and can they even finish from this point? Because if they don't, this is gonna be a victory for Neil and Richie, and yes, Pack is way too far behind. Only 2 players finishing, which means it's a victory for Team Red. Another good time by Neil. And Neil and Richie are 6-2 up. Doing a great job so far. And that was the first time we actually saw Richie make a mistake. His strategy didn't work out. We know it's by far the fastest, and he has made an early mistake. And this is amazing for Carl and Pack. They have been in this situation a million times, and they will know exactly what to do. They have a 0.6 lead over Neil. But so far, Pack just hasn't even been able to have a clean round. Is this the first time he can pull it off? A little bit slower, but that's fine. He's still 0.5 ahead. We know Richie will catch up, but he's so far behind that it doesn't matter if he gets a better turnaround. Both of them getting the reactor, making the jump. Can Pack survive his nemesis section? Yes, he can. Still looking very good. They cannot go for the fully safe line, but they can go for the higher jump if they want to. Pack goes high, Carl goes low. Both of them make it, and that will be the ace. They are back in it. Incredible time by Carl. 106.2, the best we've seen so far. And Richie with the early mistake, really opening up the door for Puff Bros to strike back. Richie seems to be the key player here. If he can just stay within the pack until the turnaround and then strike, he is a huge weapon for DG and Tascad. But then we saw Neil with a mistake, so it's all on Richie's shoulders. And after that very strong start, it's little by little falling apart here for Neil and Richie. Nice round here so far. Neil 6 seconds behind, will not be able to do anything in this round, so it's really all up to Richie once again. Trying to beat Pack and Carl. Let's see what he can do with his turnaround here. Look at this, once again from third to almost first. Pack gets stuck and loses so much ground compared to the leading two. So Carl against Richie for this first place. Richie definitely wants this draw to stay in the lead, but Carl is a difficult opponent to beat. Carl with a little bit more speed gets the lead, goes even lower, and Carl has to respawn, unfortunately. Pack gets second. Carl would get a do-over. Makes it in third because Neil was too far behind. I mean, that's a mistake you can understand. He had to go super low because he didn't know exactly how far ahead he was of Richie. So you can see why he made that mistake and why he had to respawn. Correct decision made, but bad outcome, unfortunately, for Carl and Pack, who are still a 1 point behind. And Neil and Richie could get it done. this round, but then Neil with another mistake, unfortunately. He's completely fallen off after getting a very strong start to the map. He's made a few mistakes now, and once again up to Richie to save the situation. Needs to make sure he at least gets second here, otherwise a 9-7 would be possibly devastating for DG and Tascad. Carl and Peck driving together, a great round. Then Richie with his turnaround from third to first. We've seen this before so many times, and I'm sure Carl and Peck cannot believe what they're witnessing right now, because they looked pretty safe in first, but now they're fighting a losing battle. But then Richie has to lift off and allows both of them to overtake. Carl and Peck will both make it, and they get the ace. What an insane round that was. 106-16 and 106-24. And keep in mind, Richie was even ahead of that. Absolutely huge, and now it's 9-7, meaning that this will be the last round on Limbo. Someone will win the map right now. And yes, that is indeed the match PB for Carl, who drove the best when he needed it. Let's see if they can all keep it together. Pressure at its highest right now. DG and Tascad know that they have to ace, and Carl and Pack just need one player to beat one red player. Pack slightly behind. This does open the door for Neil and Richie, because it's only Carl up ahead, with Richie having an ace up his sleeve still. Can Carl prevent the ace from happening? It's all on him. Pack also has a bit of a worse second half usually. And let's see this. Richie is in first, Pack is out. Pack is definitely out. Carl is in third. So this could be Carl versus Neil for the second place, which means everything here. Right now it is a round for the red team. Can they just make their way to the finish line? Carl is not close enough. He is relying on mistakes. However, he just cannot do it. Richie goes high. Neil and Carl go low. Richie makes it, and that is an ace when they needed it. That is map number 1 going to Neil and Richie. Amazingly done when they needed it. It was ace or nothing, and they pulled it off. Double 106.4. Great run by both. Richie dominating with his turnaround, which looks like an absolute cheat code. And that pick by Puff Bros has not gone well for them at all. They're already a one map down. Can they come back on what is Neil and Richie's first pick, which is Ellipse? And in their previous match, this was really close. I believe it is 8-7 for Neil and Richie before they got aced with an incredible round by Carl and Pack. So we know that this can be extremely close. Let's quickly check the match PBs. Carl with 110.7, Pack 110.8, Neil also 110.8, and Richie 111.01. We saw Richie get his match PB in the previous match. So Neil with a slightly worse start, making it a bit easier for Carl and Pack, who definitely have to win this map. They don't want to go 2-0 down. And it's also Richie with a worse start. Now Neil even dropping the gear. He will be quite far behind. Richie going very wide. And Carl and Pack are in full control of this round. They have almost 0.3 gap, which is huge on Ellipse. The only place where they can really drop that is the bug slide. The rest is pretty easy when you're well trained. And Neil with another mistake, but Richie, however, has fully caught up. And what's going on with Pack? That looked very strange by Pack. It looked like he was lagging a bit. And he finds himself in the water, having to respawn, leaving Carl alone in first. Richie also with a mistake. Let's see if anything changes in the end. I'm sure Carl will have no issues here. So Carl wins with 111.2. It will be a draw. But that looks really strange by Pack.
Draw.
It didn't look like a mistake to me. It just looked like he lagged a bit. Yeah, there's a pause. There's an issue with Pack. obviously an issue. It didn't look like his game crashed because he was able to complete the round. Maybe it's just internet issues. Seems like everything is fine. Really unfortunate because it seemed like they were gonna get the ace. They had a nice lead. I mean, Richie was closing the gap a little bit. They were still looking quite good. SK taking his time as usual for no reason. Can we just restart? Will any of the players be rattled by this? I think Neil and Richie will be very relieved that it happened because they got away with one there. Especially Neil, who made an early mistake, followed it up with more mistakes. And look at him go before he crashes yet again. I mean, once again, that's kind of fine. You don't really get punished for crashing early on ellipse, because all of the touches here don't really matter that much. But you gotta make sure you step it up and don't make any additional mistakes, as he is losing more and more ground compared to the others. So it's Richie versus Carl and Pack. Goes a bit wider, has to release, allows both of them to pass him. Let's see if this is the round where he can beat him. He has way more speed than both. And look at him go. And through the NASCAR section, Carl gets it the best. Richie still fighting with Pack for the second place. Amazing bug slide by Richie. It will go up to first even. However, Pack and Carl still within striking distance though. They can make this happen. They're really looking for that ace and they look incredibly strong on ellipse. Can they both overtake Richie? This is so close, and yes, they can. They drive the exact same time, hand in hand, to get the ace and beat Richie by 2.5 hundredths. Incredible round, and very unfortunate there for Richie, who loses out by a very narrow margin. That's just how close it is at this level. And then Neil once again, slower start, but then Richie completely messes up. Neil makes the exact same mistake. And it's looking like Puff Bros could get this over and done with very quickly. Again, this is a great chance for them, and you don't need to give them something like this. They are good enough to get it done on their own, as Neil is fully out of the round, and Richie is over 0.2 behind. So he will have to do something special here if he wants to catch up at least a Pack. Let's see, he is catching up just a little bit though, but then fully crashes. The reactor will help him a bit, but it's nowhere near enough. And the call will probably be made. They will know that they're fully safe in their positions. They just got a safety. They have almost 2 seconds. And on ellipse, that's very easy to manage. There's no places where they can really get wiped out and have to respawn. So no problem for the world champions. And Carl with an amazing time. He didn't even need to drive that. I mean, at this point, he's just showing off, as they're up 7-1, completely Braziling Neil and Richie. Only one ace away from taking map 2. And it's really Neil who needs to pull himself together. He's made 2 mistakes in a row. And he's just making it very easy for Puff Bros to play against him and Richie here. This time around he avoids at least the mistakes in the very start. So he is still in the mix for their first place. Carl again in the lead, looking incredibly strong on ellipse. And definitely the player to beat. Great exit, great checkpoint there, 0.5. Neil fighting with Pack there for the 3rd place. Pack barely avoids dropping into the hole there on the left. Makes it work though. Carl still in full control, but Richie trying to attack. See, Pack gets way more speed than Neil. And it's looking like a victory for Puff Bros, but it's still so close as a Pack loses his 3rd place to Neil. But then gets a terrible bug slide. Will crash, so it's up to Carl Jr. here, who needs to make sure he at least gets 2nd. He doesn't want to get counter race straight away. And Richie is proving to be a menace here on ellipse as well. doing an amazing job and wins with another 111.04. Very strong performance by Richie, which I think is going under the radar because he is losing A3, but there's really not much more he can do here. He needs a Neil to step it up, but it's so difficult because this is exactly what I was talking about before with regards to Carl Jr. He just doesn't make mistakes. He's always there, always driving a very solid time, and it's so difficult for both players of the opposing team to beat him. It did happen last round on Limbo, but on Ellipse it just seems almost impossible. And right now Puff Bros only need one more victory. So far, amazing checkpoints by the players. And then Richie makes a mistake, and this could be all over for Team Red on Ellipse. Pack and Carl are both really good run. I mean, Neil is doing great, but just not fast enough to beat both of them. Beating just one will not be enough. Nice bug slide by Neil. So he takes one, he just needs one more. Carl down to third, Richie way too far back to do anything, but Pack still needs to survive. He wants to secure the victory, which he will. And Pack with 110.85, great time. Neil driving his best round of Ellipse, but it's not gonna be enough. Carl in third, and that will be 10-4 for Puff Bros, equaling the score to 1-1. And so far, both teams winning each other's map picks. Interesting. So you could argue that they could have just picked the opposite maps, and the result would have been exactly the same. Oh, you got the clip. We can watch later, yeah. Right after the match. I'm interested to see. Now, let's see a reunion. Because we have not seen either of these teams on this map. At least if you've been watching the same matches I've been watching. So it's very difficult to predict who's gonna do what here. And Carl looked very solid in his starts in the warm-up, as he does once again. All the players are making their way through the start. No nose slides. Nicely onto the wood section. Who gets the most exit speed? Onto PF over ice. Neil's super close, but makes it work. And all the players are still in the fight for their first place before Neil crashes into the wall, allowing Pack and Carl to have a great opportunity to get their reunion started with their first ace. Richie risking just a little bit. Carl still in third. Goes so far back. And Richie is trying to secure the draw here by beating Pack, but then makes a mistake, and that is a free ace for Carl and Pack. They will know what's going on here. And they're way too experienced to not know how to save an easy ending like this. They can afford to drop the gear if they want to. And that is round number 1 going to Puff Bros with an ace. Neil and Richie making it a bit too easy. Early crash there by Neil, and there was just so much pressure on Richie. He crashed in the corner where you're most likely to crash, but at the same time he was pretty much forced to risk. He didn't really have another option. If he just got it bad, he would have lost anyway, so you can't really blame him for crashing there. Let's see if they can bounce back in round number 2. And so far, Carl is in last, which means the round is very fast. He hasn't really made a mistake. Others just driving incredibly well. Onto reactor up, all of them survive. Pack so risky, but it does pay off. He's still in first. Neil again, massive mistake, has to respawn. All on Richie, but can he survive the drift this time? Yes, he can, and he even goes up to first. Pack then crashes. That is a terrible place to crash. We'll have no speed whatsoever for the remainder of the round. Richie is far ahead in first, so this is looking like a draw unless Neil can somehow catch up to Pack, because Richie and Carl will end up in first and second. Match PB for Richie. Great time for a match, that is. 107.3 is very hard to play against. And as I said before, if you can drive this consistently, you're gonna win. I mean, if both players are driving that. It's a very, very difficult time to beat in a match. And it pretty much guarantees that you won't be aced. More often than not, you will get the ace if both players drive the time. So right now, Carl Jr. again having some struggles in the start, like in regional number 1. Will drop down a lot, so it is up to Pac here to defend against Neil and Richie, and Pac makes a complete mess of it, and they have to use this opportunity. They simply have to get it done. They have over 1 second. Just do not risk the gap here. Very smart. Go a bit wider if you have to. Nicely done. Both get the checkpoint. Doesn't matter if Carl comes up a bit closer, because the lead is still huge, and Carl is indeed catching up to at least Richie. Neil holding strong in first. Let's see, Carl now 0.7 behind. It was around 0.9 before. But as long as Richie doesn't respawn, it's gonna be fine, and he will avoid all of the possible mistakes. And that will be an ace for Neil and Richie, fully taking advantage of the situation here. Both Carl and Pac making unlikely mistakes, and it's 4-4. This is how you gotta do it. When you have the chance to ace Puff Bros, you have to take it. You cannot let it slip. So nicely done by the red duo. And the Puff Bros still have a lot of work to do if they want to win their second map here. But then Richie makes the same mistake Carl made. Although this might be even worse because the crash was a little bit harder. So it's up to Neil now to defend against the Carl and Pac, who have shown some weaknesses here on Reunion. But then again, so has Neil. So who is gonna come out on top in this round? Richie over 1 second behind, so he will require a respawn from someone. So far, all good for all three, but Carl and Pac not able to overtake Neil here. Let's see in the drift. Kind of stays the same. So it's all gonna be in the ending. Can Neil keep the gear in both of those difficult turns? Gets it done for now. One more turn, we has to keep the gear. Manages to do so, and Neil will be able to defend. Great by Neil. 107.3 match BB. Match B for Carl as well with a 107.45. And Neil is stepping up when it matters. Huge, huge round for Neil. He needed to get it done, and he did when Richie was struggling. So it's 5-5. Nothing to separate the teams on Reunion. Carl avoiding disasters so many times is somehow still in the round. Everyone's surviving the start finally, but as I say that, it's Pac who crashes going into the wood section. He has no speed whatsoever, will be out of this one. And once again, it's up to Carl to save the situation. Can he do it? He has the worst match BB out of everyone. We've seen both Neil and Richie drive a low 107.3. Carl only a 107.4. So this is the round where he has to show what he's made of. Super close between the top three. Carl with the best drift. But then again, Neil and Richie not really dropping off. They're so close to Carl. And they're just waiting for that small mistake that would allow them to ace here and put themselves in an amazing position to take map number 2. But Carl is not giving them a chance. This is why he's the 6-time world champion, and he drives another PB. Very strong round by Carl yet again. Make sure that he covers Pac's mistake. Driving the best when it matters the most. And that is gonna be 6-6. Pac so far not looking good on this. And you can see he has 47% crashes over the course of the entire match. And only 11% round wins. This is not the usual Pac we know. So far he is lacking a little bit. So let's see if he can step up. But he has quite a slow start and has some catching up to do. With his teammate only in second, and Neil and Richie looking very strong on Reunion. As I say that, of course it's Richie who makes a mistake and gives an opportunity to Pac and Carl to battle Neil and maybe get that all-important ace. As we know, an ace in this situation is always massive. Whoever goes 9-6 up is in an almost unlosable position. Neil, however, holding strong, gets the exact same drift as the Puff Bros duo. So it's all to play for in the end. Richie is too far back, and that's a massive mistake by Neil. And that could be map defining. He is 0.57 behind. Carl and Pack are driving together. And that is exactly what they were waiting for. Neil gives them an opening, and they fully take it 9-6 now. So Neil and Richie have to ace back. They have no other choice. Puff Bros 1 point away from winning Reunion. And this map is huge. Are you gonna go 2-1 up or 2-1 down? It's all in this round, and Neil has already made a mistake. Neil is already struggling, and what are the odds of both Carl and Pack making such big mistakes that Neil is able to come back? They will know that Neil is 1.1 seconds behind. They will check the HUD. Carl is the one in charge of doing that. He will tell Pack that they have over 1 second. So really, it's all about what they do. They should know they don't have to risk. Pack doesn't really care. Risks anyway, and Richie has to respawn, and yeah, this is pretty much an unlosable position now. Richie 6 seconds behind, and DG and Taskat have fully thrown this away. They've done such great work, but in the last 2 rounds, they just haven't been able to keep it together. And Carl and Pack will cruise to winning map number 2. Pack did not care about saving at all. Pack only cared about showing off. And drives the best time we've seen on Reunion all day. Incredible match time. So Puff Bros 2-1 up. After losing Limbo at the beginning, maybe they really just wanted to get it out of the way, so they can play other maps and win in those. And now we get to see the other cinema map, which has by far the most interesting ending. Let's see who decides to go safe, who saves even the beam before, not just the very ending. Who gets the water bounce? Who gets stuck on the beam? Who gets stuck on the jump? There's so many places here where you can crash or have to respawn. Chance for Puff Bros to close out the entire match and win the second regional. And also chance for DG and Taskat to tie up the score. Here we go. All of them make it through the start onto the boxlight. Pack completely messes up, presses the brake a bit too early, so he gets stuck on the transition there. Once again, living it up to Carl to make sure they don't get aced. He is in first indeed, but Richie going a bit higher and Neil even higher as well. All good though, makes his way over the beam. Carl is struggling a little bit, but then Richie touches on the exit, which means Carl will have more exit speed. So he's still very open, anything can happen here. Nobody here able to really go safe due to the way the gaps are. Neil, they're so close on the inside, all of them going for the 360. Neil kind of gets stuck, but is ahead of Pack enough to not lose the third place. Richie ahead of Carl, but cannot go safe. Has to just make sure he survives. Can they all make the jump? Richie does make it. Carl makes it. Neil has to respawn, but Pack also has to respawn. Neil has to respawn yet again. Pack cannot make it. Neil is here with Pack. Both go safe. Neil overtakes, and Neil with the big brain move gets the third place and secures the victory for DG and Taskat. Both of them with a million respawns. But Neil is the one who decides to go for the safe finish straight away after respawning before. And Pack only goes safe on his third try. So 2-1 for Neil and Richie. Great start for them. Can they keep it up? Pack with a respawn, and he is having a terrible time so far on Sunburn. This is where I thought that Puff Bros could beat Neil and Richie, and I thought Neil and Richie would struggle here, but it's actually the other way around. It's Pack struggling the most. And again, it's Richie in the lead. With Carl only in second, Neil again in the same position, third, can't really attack for second and is far ahead of Pack. So he should just make sure he goes into the safe finish, completes the round, and hopes that Carl makes a mistake. Carl, however, is trying to steal that first place from Richie, who makes a mistake. But now can Carl make the jump back with no respawn? Carl, luckily for him, makes it. Richie also making it. He goes safe, very smart. And Pack cannot make the final jump. He is really struggling here.
Draw.
But Carl makes sure it is a draw. And it's only 3-2 for DG and Tascad. So far, very, very chaotic. And the winning times are not the best. Will this change in round number 3? All of them making it over the gap, no problem. Super close back, nobody having to respawn yet. Once again, no slide outs onto the backwards section. Pack going very low, gets very lucky there. That could have gone much worse, but does he have the speed to make this? Yes, he does. He's still in, goes over the gap again. Pack finds another place to crash, but not as badly as Neil. So right now it's looking like a draw. But we have seen Richie make loads of mistakes in the ending. So can he keep that first place? And make sure that Carl doesn't overtake. Both going for the 360. Carl makes a complete mess of it. He's going backwards and barely gets the checkpoint. Has to respawn. Richie with a respawn of his own. So it's actually Carl who is in first. It's actually back in first after that early mistake. He finally makes the jump. And then Carl in second does make the jump. And that is an ace for Puff Bros. They will be very, very happy with that. Pack, who was super far behind, is the only one who doesn't have to respawn, and that was enough to win the round. Carl in second following a standing respawn after going backwards into the checkpoint, and somehow that was enough. Richie, as predicted, like really throwing it away there in the final bits of the map. This time he's having trouble with the start, and it seems like it's all going wrong for Neil and Richie. Puff Bros getting closer and closer here to winning the entire tournament. Richie having to respawn, so it's all on Neil here. Carl also super far behind. So Neil quite safe here in first even. He just wants to make sure that it doesn't get any worse. A draw would be amazing for him in this situation. 6-4 is, I think, the best that he can hope for. But he still has a job to do. He still has to survive this very tough ending. Back with a bit more speed is coming closer. Can they both make the jump? Yes, they do. Neil with a match PB, Carl in third. And Richie, unfortunately, will have to settle only for fourth. Cannot even make the jump. Luckily for him, it doesn't matter right now. So that's gonna be very encouraging for Neil. He can take a lot of positives from that round. He was able to defend, and he got a new match PB. Let's see if he can carry the momentum into the next round. Because he is still 2 points behind Carl and Pack. Oh, Pack is struggling. Pack is kind of out of this one. Very far behind, 2 seconds. That's gonna be hard to come back from unless someone respawns ahead of him. So another good opportunity for Neil and Richie, who once again is crashing in this slow NASCAR section. But then Neil crashes in the backward section. He cannot make this. And I have no clue how that even happens. So Neil with a million respawns. Richie is in second, kind of in the middle of nowhere. But then, what is happening in this round? It's like the players are finding places to crash where nobody has ever crashed before. And all of a sudden, this could actually turn out to be an ace for Puff Bros. But Pack is also taking it very easy, allowing Richie back in. So Richie right now denying the ace. Let's go ahead and see what Carl is doing. Can Carl make it? Carl very safe, very smart. Richie is going for the jump, will make it. Pack also going safe, also a smart decision. And this will be a victory for Puff Bros, who now are only 2 points away from winning the grand final. And DG and Tascad really need an ace. A victory would only mean we go into a sudden death round. So they will be desperate for an ace now. And they gotta avoid crashing in those slow NASCAR section, in the backward section. That just cannot happen at this level. Can they make it? A bit slow for Neil, but at least he's still alive. This time he avoids the mistake. His teammate is in first, so it's looking good from that side. Coming closer to Carl, but then has a terrible exit, even crashes. So Richie stays in first, and he needs to stay there. Otherwise, this is all over. Neil is 4.5 seconds behind. So if Richie just gets second, it's over. It's all down to him. He has to make sure he gets first. Can Pack maybe overtake? No room for error for Richie whatsoever. If he clips, it's over. He makes it. Can he make the jump? Yes, he can, just barely. And that is an amazing time. 106.35. Great match time by Richie. Drives it when he needed it the most. And right now, they have to ace. Neil and Richie have no choice but to ace. Otherwise, it's over. No other result is good enough. Everything else will spell the end for them. This is it. 9-6 for Puff Bros. This could be the last round. All of the pressure right now on Richie and Neil. They gotta win the round. So far, so good. They're still in the mix. No mistakes yet. Good exit by everyone. Carl is still behind, but he's super close. And look at this, all the players within 0.1 of a second. Great turnaround. Nobody gets stuck on the checkpoint. Nobody jumps out. Pack gets smashed into the checkpoint. Has to respawn, but Carl overtakes for second. And this is going to be the key here. Can Neil get second here, or can Carl win the match for his team? Neil clips. That is looking really bad, but he at least survives. This is all on Carl here. Gets a really slow exit, but luckily for him, Neil has not caught up at all. All in this ending. Carl versus Neil. Richie will make it. Who has more speed? Can Carl make it? Carl makes it. Neil doesn't, and that's it. What a round by Richie, though. Richie digging deep when he needed, but Neil unable to take the second place, and that is gonna be the end. Congratulations to Puff Bros for winning yet another regional. 3-1 in regional number 2, and they will take another 1,000 points for the World Tour ranking.